Ruri gets a lot of attention during the sports festival because of her dragon heritage. What does this mean for the story, and what does this mean to us as readers? I had some thoughts about this chapter, so let's get into it. The chapter is titled, Cold Karage is Nasty, and that sounds about right. We start off this chapter with some of the students talking about an old manga about the son of a dragon, which is an interesting framing device to start off this chapter with. Whether it means anything for the direction of this series beyond what is outlined in the chapter, we'll have to wait and see. These same students seem to disbelieve that Ruri is half dragon, given she is mostly a normal teen otherwise. To some degree, I imagine this is the author inserting criticism of the work itself in a way that highlights its absurdity. After all, part of the point of this series seems to be that while Ruri may be half dragon, she is otherwise normal. An interesting question that arises from this conversation is the wondering aloud of what real dragons are like. Of course, this is not a question that is ruminated on here, and I do wonder myself if the series is necessarily going to delve into that side of its story. It definitely could, and some might expect it, but even if the series sticks to focusing on Ruri's experience as a half-dragon without getting too deep into the world of dragons, I would still enjoy it. So one of the main focuses of the chapter comes in, and that is how people at school want to hang out with Ruri and eat together. As seems to be rather typical of Ruri, she tends to go along with the flow of things, and before she knows it, she is hanging out with everyone. Early on, she hears some people refer to her as Dragon, and she feels that she has to address that she's not a fan of everyone calling her that. I like the little line thrown in there as one student remarks that it would be like referring to a blonde as Blondie. After establishing that she would like to be referred to by her name, some of the other students introduce themselves to her. She soon finds herself the center of attention as students around her try to figure out what it means that she is a dragon. Ruri feels a bit deflated after more people come and realize she is hanging around, and one of these students refers to her as Horn Girl. Then comes the announcement of the scavenger hunt. This is perhaps the most curious scene of the chapter, where Ruri, for some reason, fits several of the prompts, which wears her out. It's not fully explained why this was the case, but one student speculates that so many of the prompts applying to one person seems like bullying. From there, we get into the last part of this chapter, where one student brings out marshmallows and asks Ruri to roast them with her dragonfire. At a point in these pages, we get an offhand remark by one student who talks about cold karage being nasty, and learning that the title chapter is a random piece of dialogue is actually kinda funny. Anyway, everyone is surprised that Ruri casually breathed fire, and after the girl's marshmallows apparently taste delicious, the guy with cold karage asks for some fire too, before everyone starts coming at her with their food heating requests. Ruri puts all of the requests on a grill and breathes fire one more time. The chapter ends on a teacher realizing what is happening, and a commentary box that says, "I guess this was dragonish enough for them." So, I really enjoyed this chapter, and as I was reading, I wasn't just thinking about the text as its literal components, but recognizing a clear metaphor within these events. See, as chapters like this come out, it becomes more and more obvious that being half-dragon is this series' metaphor for standing out. One of the prompts Ruri is picked for is even someone who stands out. There are layers to this metaphor, as you could see the more one-to-one metaphor with people who stand out through some special skill, how if you are seen as useful or smart, then that is what people expect you to be. But you could also extrapolate something more abstract from the metaphor, as there are a multitude of ways one could potentially stand out. After all, Ruri is half-dragon, meaning that she stands out because of her identity, and so I could definitely see some people understanding a metaphor in there about people who stand out due to their identity. In all, a great chapter of Ruri Dragon, where the themes of the story came more to the forefront than any major plot development or even slice-of-life stuff. I am still quite curious about how this story will unfold and the future direction of this series. Let me know what you thought of the chapter in the comments, and if you are still watching, let me know the source of these song lyrics. I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all.